call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mrs. Vance Clemens.
Here.
Mrs. Cullen. Mrs. Dolan.
Here.
Ms. Kildare. Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Mr. Rice.
Here.
Mrs. Thompson.
Ms. Here.
Mrs. Walters.
Here.
Dr. Yarnell.
Here.
Student and staff recognition.
Thank you, Mrs. Vance Clemens. This evening, we have the honor of recognizing one of the students for an outstanding performance in a national competition. Please join me in a round of applause for Dylan Miller, who recently came home with a silver medal from the Skills USA National Competition in Louisville, Kentucky. The second place finish came a few weeks after Dylan finished his 4-year career in the Upper Bucks County Technical School's Small Engine Repair Program. He earned the trip to Nationals by winning a gold medal in the state competition. At Nationals, Dylan competed against more than 100 gold medal winners from around the United States in the motorcycle service technology category. Over 2 days, he participated in mock interviews, written tests, and 10 timed hands-on challenges under the watchful eyes of industry professionals. The challenges were representative of what a technician routinely encounters in a Harley-Davidson dealership service department, including scheduled maintenance tasks, use of service, electrical diagnostic and parts manuals, precision measurement, brake service, chassis suspension service, fuel delivery system inspection and repair, transmission and drive systems, and powertrain systems. Judges looked for clean and organized work habits, correct use of reference materials, the ability to follow directions, and good technical skills. As a silver medalist, Dylan won a number of great prizes for himself, including tools and gift cards. The Upper Bucks Technical County School will also receive a brand new 2018 Harley-Davidson motorcycle that can be used in several training programs. But perhaps the most valuable prize Dylan won was a $17,500 scholarship to Ohio Technical College in Cleveland. Combined with the $10,000 scholarship he won from OTC in the state competition, Dylan will have his tuition covered to start their welding technology master training program in the fall. In the meantime, Dylan will continue to work as a shop assistant, no surprise here, at Hannum's Harley-Davidson in West Rock Hill Township. Congratulations, Dylan, and good luck in your future endeavors. We're very proud of you. And Mr. Freeman, if you'd come up and join us. They're coming from the technical school as well to congratulate Dylan.
Everybody nice and tight. Good, thanks.
Thank you and congratulations, Dylan, on your exceptional accomplishment. Before we move into questions and comments from guests, I want to make a motion to modify the agenda to remove item 5 on the personnel report. Do I have a second?
Item number 5 is the appointment of a long-term sub. This individual was fortunate enough to receive a contracted position at another district and informed us later this afternoon.
Second. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Okay, motion passes 8-0. Okay, questions and comments from guests? The Penridge School Board welcomes public comment according to Policy 903. We remind everyone of the following. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise specified by the board. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and note their name and municipality. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer rather than to individual board members, district employees, or members of the public. A speaker may speak once during each comment period. Please note that these sessions are designated for comments to protect the confidentiality and privacy rights of all members of our community. The board encourages members of the public to direct any comments regarding particular individuals, such as students or district employees, privately to the superintendent or other appropriate administrator, or to communicate with the board privately by sending an email to psdschoolboard@penridge.org. Questions raised and not addressed may be followed up at a later time. Okay, the first person on the list is Sue Furlong.
Sue Furlong, West Rock Hill Township. I was going through some of the attachments for this evening's meeting, and it was brought to my attention too that there was a line item called it was a $919 contribution to Water for the South Sudan. This was coming out of the general funds, which is the fund where we keep tax dollars. So by definition, it appears to be a distribution of tax dollars that were paid in by the residents of Penridge, and it does not appear to be a student account, although that was offered as an explanation if you look at Facebook. So I would like to understand what that entry is for, who generated it, and why I'm paying taxes to make charitable donations with no input as to who gets what. I don't think it's wrong, even if it were a charity that I favored, because it may not be a charity that somebody else favors. Can somebody explain to me what that entry is for?
I'll respond to all the questions at the end. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, that would be it.
Thank you. Diane Herring?
Diane Herring, Hilltown Township. As the board president just announced, I submitted an email to the board earlier today in anticipation of asking some questions this evening. I do not expect answers this evening because I think it requires a lot of background work that has to be done. And I am genuinely interested in the answers to the questions, okay? The class of 2018 purchased on behalf of their student fundraising money an in excess of $10,000 Gator, to which we have all been publicly advised is for security. I cannot, however, find anywhere in any board discussion, any committee discussion, any strategic plan, anything alluding to the necessity of said item, nor who's going to be responsible for using it on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly, or even what its intended purpose is, only that it's been listed as a security need. I bring that up because the money that was used to purchase this is sweat equity. Those kids stand up there and sell hot dogs. They get the proceeds from that to build a fundraising account that's supposed to benefit them. As of your own meeting, which the documents I support sent to you, which by the way are all publicly available, some of which I've got through Right to Know, and some of which are even readily available on your website, show that the students voted on May 4th to purchase said gator, and they were provided a quote. So that would mean the quote would have to have been given to them prior. However, their account balance at the time, based on their vote, was less than the cost of the gator. And in generally accepted accounting principles, you kited their account. You have contracts that these kids were obligated to, this district was obligated to, that exceeded the balance of that account. So we spent money we didn't have. Based on what projection? Prom ticket cost? It's called kiting. I suggest everyone look it up. It's illegal. I would like to know at some point what the security use for said gator is that the kids paid for out of their sweat equity.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments from guests? Mrs. Furlong, Kids at Central held a dance to raise funds for that project, so no taxpayer funds were used for that. Mrs. Herring, we were, as you noted, there was a lot of detail, so the administration is looking into that, and when they have an answer for you, we'll get back to you with all of the details on that. Okay? Thank you. Okay, next, Judge Boylan will be swearing in our new superintendent, Dr. David Bolton.
Good evening. Let you stand so that they can, okay. Repeat after me, please. I, David Bolton,
I, David Bolton,
do solemnly swear, do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Okay, next is the consent calendar. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to approve the consent calendar, items A through J. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mrs. Cullen. Questions or comments from board members? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Student liaison report.
It's summer, so nothing to report out here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Next up is the President's Report. For those of you who didn't make it to our last special board meeting, we appointed 2 new board members to the Penridge School Board at our special meeting on July 10th. Sherry Thompson, a Percy resident whose 2 children graduated from Penridge High School, is Director of Operations for a small land development company in Sellersville. She has a master's in public administration and is pursuing a doctorate in business administration, specializing in strategy and innovation. She is also a certified mediator. After being appointed to the board, she shared that she loves her community and is really excited to serve here and be a part of the process. Dave Rice, a West Rock Hill Township resident, and also a 1987 Penridge High School grad, has worked in the information technology industry for 23 years. He is the president of the Penridge Little League and has been involved in the organization for 16 years. He has served on the West Rock Hill Parks and Rec Committee for 10 years. His 3 children attended Penridge and 1 is currently a student here. After his appointment, he shared that he believes in community service and getting involved himself. It brings people together, introduces new ideas, and gets more accomplished. He loves Penridge and is looking forward to being a part of this great school district. The 2 of them bring skill sets that will greatly contribute to our work here on the board. Ms. Thompson has already been a valuable asset with regard to our pending LERTA proposals. Her background will add tremendous insight to our finance and facilities committees. Mr. Rice's long-term experience in the IT industry will benefit the district immensely, with technology becoming more and more of an integral component of all aspects of district operations. His experience running one of our local sports organizations and volunteering in the community will serve him well as he takes on this new position. We welcome Sherry Thompson and Dave Rice to the board and are excited to work together to accomplish great things for Penridge moving forward. I also wanted to update you on the superintendent transition. As you can see, Dr. Price is currently serving as our acting superintendent through the end of July. We would like to thank him for stepping up and taking on this important role as we transition to our new superintendent, Dr. Bolton, on August 1st. So thank you, Dr. Price. I'd like to update you on the permanent solicitor, which we'll be voting on this evening. All board members were welcomed and encouraged to suggest firms to interview. We were also contacted by additional firms who expressed interest in serving the Penridge School District. We interviewed all of them, which amounted to 8 interviews conducted over 3 evenings. All board members were invited to take part in the interviews. We ultimately ended up with a committee of 5 board directors, Mr. Kraus, Dr. Yarnell, Mrs. Cullen, Ms. Kildare, and myself. These were long and late nights for board members, as well as the firms we interviewed. Thank you to everyone for the time and effort that was dedicated to this process. There were truly great, experienced firms to choose from. We reviewed proposals, contacted references, and ultimately came to the unanimous conclusion to recommend Mike Miller from Eckert Siemens for approval as permanent solicitor for the district. Mr. Miller's reputation precedes him, his record is impeccable, and his references from other school districts he serves cannot say enough positive things about him. They think he walks on water and has saved them exponentially in legal costs. He and Ryan Cassidy have done an outstanding job transitioning the district during this difficult time, and we are confident they will provide exceptional legal counsel going forward. In addition to their exemplary legal counsel, one of the many positive qualities that was conveyed was their ability to unify people and build consensus. And the last thing is the solicitor billing and transition. Concerns were raised regarding a line item on the solicitor bill and implications that the process was somehow inappropriate. I'm going to address this as specifically as possible, but this is the last time I am going to address this topic. My president's reports are available as a link to the website and in the minutes for people to refer to. People on this board were very vocal about their perspectives on hiring a new solicitor. We all clearly knew where each other stood. I had even mentioned to the former president on numerous occasions that I was entertaining making a motion at a public meeting. We also had an executive session to discuss obtaining a new solicitor. It would have been irresponsible to make a motion to dismiss a solicitor without making sure there was a competent replacement to fill in until the board as a whole could conduct interviews and decide on a permanent solicitor. There was nothing unusual about contacting an attorney we are contracted with to ask about his firm's services. Given that Eckert Siemens was just hired last year by a board with which the recent minority was in fact the majority, it seemed the least controversial for an interim solution. They already had the confidence of the entire board, and they went through the same interview process we have just gone through, which did not include an RFP and would have slowed down the process. I reached out to Ryan Cassidy to see if his firm would be willing and able to provide such services in the interim if such a request was made by the board. It was clear to him that this may or may not have the votes, but I wanted to make sure it was feasible and legally sound. He checked into whether or not his colleague, Mike Miller, would be willing and able to help us out if we needed him. Reluctantly, as Mike Miller lives near Harrisburg, he agreed to do so if needed. Since then, I believe we have won him over, and he enjoys working with us enough to continue to make the trip. After the meeting, I immediately contacted them to let them know they were now contracted with solicitor services for Penn Ridge, that board leadership had changed hands, and that 2 board members had resigned. With respect to the specific line item brought up at the last meeting, all attorney hours are billed to the firm. Their intention was to write off that item as a loss to the firm. It inadvertently was billed to us, and they have since credited that amount as soon as it was brought to their attention. I would also like to point out that Mr. Miller drives 2 hours to get here and 2 hours home after each of these meetings, and he does not charge us for that time. He and Ryan Cassidy also call with questions or for clarification on legal matters and do not charge for much of that time as well. After we expanded their services to include solicitor work on an interim basis, they agreed to drop the partner rate to $250 per hour. This went into effect on May 1st. Now that we have proposed retaining these additional services on a permanent basis, they have also agreed to drop the associate rate to $195 per hour. This will carry over to future contracts they negotiate on behalf of the district, saving the district money on future negotiations. These additional reduced rates were not taken into account in averaging the fees for the year, likely reducing that cost. Eckert Siemens has provided this district with expedient and exemplary legal counsel during this time. In fact, some administrators have even commented on the immediacy of their response time. I will also reiterate that even though Mr. Miller's hourly fee is higher, his hours are significantly less, averaging out to what we were paying before. There is always a secondary cost to consider when hiring a solicitor as well, with regard to legal situations that arise if you are not given proper legal counsel. From my perspective, Mr. Miller has already proven himself to be exceptional in that regard. The process for getting items on the agenda required contacting 4 other board directors to get a majority. When I was in the minority opinion, I respected that. I did not have the support to bring things forward. Recently, however, even 6 people could not make decisions, making it impossible to carry out our duties. That is also how every president is elected to be the president of the board, and how Mrs. Yardley was elected in December. Calls were made in the days leading up to the meeting to obtain the majority support. The same thing happens in Congress when they line up votes they need to pass legislation. It should not matter who the president of the school board is. Every board director has 1 equal vote. The job of the board president is to facilitate the will of the majority of the board while respecting the minority view, whether that represents the president's personal perspective or not. 1 vote should never carry more weight than a majority of the board. People need to understand that many issues are confidential or could have legal implications if we correct the record, so we cannot always do so. Sometimes doing the right thing for the district means we just have to take the hits. Unfortunately, not everyone always respects that line. I would like to note an additional billing correction from our June board meeting. A board member suggested the billing for Eastburn and Gray for the month of April was $10,000. That was inaccurate. The total was actually over $25,000 for the month of April, and as you may recall, they were only retained for 3 weeks of that month. I believe this error was an honest mistake, because if you scroll down to the bottom of the bill, the last category of billing was just over $10,000, but I wanted to correct the discrepancy with the accurate number for the record. Thank you. Committee reports. I'm sorry, superintendent report.
Thank you, Mrs. Vance-Clemens. I wanted to share a couple project updates that are going on in the district. Some of them were very evident to you, I'm sure, as you drove into the parking lot and, of course, walked into the high school main entrance there. So I'll start with the high school and district office. The high school paving for the roads are complete. However, the main entrance sidewalk replacement is ongoing outside of the high school and district office. It's about 70% complete at this point. At South Middle School, the paving was completed as of Saturday, this past Saturday, and striping will be done as weather permits painting this week. The paving operation moved from South to Sellersville, Sidewalks at the front entrance, main drop-off area are removed at this point, and concrete has begun to be poured and will continue this week as weather permits. Paving will begin around the back of the school and work towards the front at Sellersville. At Bedminster, roof replacement work is complete. Metal trim has been measured and ordered and is expected to be installed in the next 2 weeks. At Guth Elementary, roof replacement has begun on the east classroom wing, and a second crew will be starting at the gymnasium. The turf replacement, this new synthetic turf replacement project is just about completed at this point. All the turf is installed. There's just a few punch list items to do at this point. It's in the final step, so hopefully we can receive approval from the engineers and allow the public back onto that field real soon. And finally, just to note that the summer cleaning, again, as you see in the hallways as you walk in, is underway, waxing the floors and so forth. Everyone's been working hard in the district, and that is all on schedule, and we'll be ready to go when school starts. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Price. Now committee reports. Activities, Mrs. Cullen.
Thank you, Mrs. Gaines Clements. The Activities Committee did not meet, and the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 4th.
Thank you. Curriculum.
The Curriculum Committee also did not meet, and the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, September 10th.
Okay. Facilities, Mrs. Dolan.
I have two motions.